A week or so ago, I was looking through a yachting magazine, and it just hit me. Back in the late 1970s, early 80s, I was doing a lot of wire sailboats. These were in my retail shop, and they really sold well. I don't know why I stopped making them, but for a YouTube video, I thought, I'll just do a sailboat. Show how to make a simple wire sailboat. And this kind of got me going, and it's not in this video, but it'll be in another video, how to make kayaks, or how to make a catamaran. There's just so much that can be done with this simple technique. And all I'm using is RG45, which is perhaps the least expensive metal that I know of to do metal sculpture. So I hope you enjoy these videos, because these pieces are really fun to do, and there's no end to where you can go with these. If you want to make, period boats like a Gloucester fisherman or some famous racing yacht, you can do it just with this simple RG45 gas welding rod. Brazing it, fuse welding, and gas welding. Starting off with some 3/32 RG45. Here I have two pieces, 12 inches long, and I'll fuse weld these together at the ends. RG45 is a mild steel gas welding rod. It's very standard at your welding supply. It's mild steel with a thin copper sheath. Here I'm fuse welding the ends of the 3/32 RG45 pieces together. Fusion welding means to melt them one into another. Now that the ends have been fused together, using a pair of pliers, I can form these pieces into a shallow curve. And this will be for the sides, for the port and starboard side of the boat. By fuse welding the ends together and then forming them both at the same time, I can be assured that the sides are symmetrical. Here I'm using a 1/16 inch RG45 fuller rod to weld the bow or the front of the boat together. And for the stern or transom, I'm using another piece of 3/32 RG45, and in this case I'm using a longer piece. If I used just a short piece in there, the air from the torch would probably blow it around. So I can use that longer piece and then cut it off. Again, using a piece of 3/32 RG45, this is for the center line of the boat. This is where the mast will attach. Using 3/32 RG45, and I'm forming a piece here for the shape of the hull. I don't have any particular ship or yacht in mind as I form this, but if a person wanted to, they could start recreating famous fishing vessels and famous yachts, just using these simple ideas and using the RG45, in this case the 3/32 RG45 and the 1/16 inch RG45. Giving myself a preview of what this is going to look like, and then welding it onto, in this case, the stern, and then the bow of the boat. Now that I have that on, the next step is the keel. And here I have already formed the keel. And again, I'm not working from any particular plan. And if you'll take a look at some yachting books or fishing vessels, you'll see there are numerous ways to do the keel. Brazing on a short section of 3/32 RG45, this is the pin that will go into the wooden base. 3/32 RG45 for the mast. And if you'll notice, I have this little loop right here. That's so that I can braise the mast on in two places. Without that little loop, there would just be one place to braise that onto the boat. And that would be called a butt braise. And a butt joint is sometimes questionable. So you can feel much more secure if you're brazing it two places. which is what I'm doing here. For the height of the mast, I go with what feels right, what appears to be in proportion. Now to weld on the headstay. This goes from the bow up to the mast. This is for the jib sail. Here I'm fuse welding, and here I'm using some 1/16 inch filler rod. Using my thumbs here, and a piece of 1/16 inch RG45, kind of sliding my thumbs across there to make a shallow curve. This is for the bottom of the jib sail. I'm going to braise it right on the head stay. You can't go wrong with the jib sail because jib sails are made in just about any dimension that you can think of. And here I'm putting on the bottom part of the sail for the mainsail. And for the jib sail, just forming this again with my thumbs, sliding it across there so I can get the arc that I want. Just kind of trial and error here. So I get the right size, right length of rod, flipping it off. And in this case, I'm going to braise the 1/16 inch rod. The 1/16 inch RG45, that's just a little small to be fuse welding and gas welding. Very easy to burn some of it off. Just melt it. So with the brazing, I have just a little bit more control. By putting just a dab of bronze on one of the ends of the sail here, and I can remelt that and melt it onto the other part of the sail, the other 16th inch rod. With a triangular shape of copper here for a flag, and I can put a little dab of bronze right there, and then I can braise the copper right onto the top of the mast. Then right up here at the top, adding a little kind of balling up some bronze so that I don't end up with just a sharp, blunt end up there. Kind of finishes it off. For finishing, a wire brush for the brazed and welded joints, a file for taking care of any rough edges, some 2-part epoxy for mounting the sailboat in the wooden base, some rub and buff for gold highlights, and then spraying with a clear lacquer or an aerosol clear acrylic.